Welcome to Off the Wall. My name is Trey. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch, listen, no matter where you're consuming it. We appreciate you for being here. Happy holidays. Merry Christmas to all who celebrate. I have a shorter show for you this week, but it's still a great one. We've got Tucker Welch on the program this week, who is the Director of Communications for the Northern Arizona Wranglers of the Indoor Football League. It was great to be able to chat with him about his career so far with the Wranglers, what it's like behind the scenes of an indoor football league team, wearing a bunch of different hats and doing a bunch of different things, not just during the season, but in the off season as well. Lessons he's learned along the way. He was there for that 2022 IFL National Championship run. And of course, we talk about what he's excited about for 2025 and beyond. So big thank you to Tucker for joining the show, and let him know that you heard him on Off the Wall. His socials are going to be below in the description, no matter where you're listening to this or watching this. And give Northern Arizona Wranglers a follow as well. They have a really good coaching staff coming into this season, and they should be a very exciting team yet again, like they are almost every single year that they've been in the IFL. After the interview, we don't have a ton to dive into, so it is going to be a shorter show, like I mentioned. But before we dive into the interview, I want to give a huge shout out to the guys from the World of Football for joining the Turf Tapes Volume 3 earlier this week. We had a blast watching Arena Bowl 15 with Adam and Randy Snow, and we were able to relive the games that they witnessed live in person over 20 years ago in Grand Rapids. So being able to relive some of those experiences with them. And there were some aspects of the game that they didn't realize happened, and some things that 20 years later, it's like, oh, that makes sense why that happened, because X, Y, and Z. And our guy, Gary Compton, who's been on the show and is the director of football operations for the Arena Football 1, he was awarded an award at halftime of that Arena Bowl too. So it's a funny full circle moment for how the arena football world has kind of shaped over the past couple of months. So big thanks to the World of Football guys for coming on the show, and go check it out on YouTube. If you're not on YouTube, you can go to youtube.com/@offthewallfb. Again, youtube.com/@offthewallfb, F as in foot, B as in ball. If you're not currently watching, if you are watching on YouTube, literally click on the profile and go to live. It'll be there. So I believe in you. You can find it. But let me know your thoughts. This is something I've had a really, really fun time with since launching it over the past month or so, and looking forward to seeing what other games people are interested in, what guests people are interested in. So go throw a comment on one of those streams and let me know what you think. If there are specific players, specific games, throw it on there. We'll see if we can get it lined up, and we'll see what type of guests we can get on in the future. Speaking of YouTube, if you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe and like the video, subscribe to the channel, share the video with a friend. We've been growing this thing out really well over the past month or so, and looking forward to that continued progress into 2025 as we start to if the offseason was a roller coaster, we've been kind of inching along at the very beginning where you're like building some height, and right when the new year hits, that's when the offseason is going to get crazy with transactions and a lot of announcements coming. So make sure you're subscribed to the channel, as well as following us on socials. So if you're not following us on socials already, what are you doing? You're missing out. At Off the Wall FB, F as in foot, B as in ball. We are on Instagram, we are on X/Twitter, and we are on TikTok. So give us a follow on each of those and stay up to date on what's going on in the arena football and indoor football world. And I just realized I bypassed Spotify and Apple Podcasts. So if you're listening to the podcast, hello, go rate the show 5 stars, share the show with a friend, and let them know that, hey, Off the Wall is pretty cool. You should check it out. Join the cult of arena football that we got going on here. So that's enough plugging. That's enough of that. Here's the interview with Tucker. All right, joining us on the show today, we have a very special guest. He is the Director of Communications for the Northern Arizona Wranglers of the IFL, and his name is Tucker Welch. Tucker, thank you so much for joining the show. How's the offseason been treating you so far?
Awesome, man. Trey, thank you so much for having me on. It means a lot, man. Before we dive into about me here, I just want to say thank you so much for all the work you do to give shine to the arena leagues and the IFL. And, these players and these coaches deserve that shine, man. Everybody works really hard from front office to on field. So I just wanted to thank you for that, man. And kind of just diving right into the off season stuff. I kind of wear a lot of hats during the off season. As the director of communications, my main responsibilities are running the social media and the website, as you know. So a lot of that in the off season is like keeping the fans engaged and
Right.
updated on what's going on. Players coming in, re-signs, new players signing. Obviously, we had a new coaching staff coming in, so day to day, I'm hopping on the phone with these guys, kind of doing brief interviews so I can get a little insight into their background, beyond what I can find from the internet, and then just keeping the fans updated with all things, football side going on. That's like the focal point for me right now. I also dabble in a little bit of like ticket sales and, marketing promotions that our
Okay.
VP, yeah, our VP of sponsorships and marketing is actually Robin De Palma. So she's one of the owners of the team, and
Oh, nice.
she works so hard, man, trying to get different promotions and get creative with all that kind of stuff. And she'll kind of direct me on some of that, like giveaways we do during the off season to sell season tickets and to give people some free swag, Wranglers gear and all that. So
Yeah.
that's in a nutshell, that's kind of like a condensed version of what I do in the off season. So
Yeah. So kind of building on that, what does a day, like a typical day for you look like during the season? Because obviously that changes drastically off season versus during season. But it seems like one of those titles that you see a lot, but not very many people actually know what that entails.
no, absolutely. I appreciate the question because definitely I get a lot of that, even just like friends or people I meet when I try to explain my role. And I could talk about it all day long, man, because I do so much. So it's hard to really condense it. When the season gets going, obviously the social media stuff is amped.
Yeah.
It's a lot faster pace. We have game content, from prior games, updating fans, cutting together highlight edits, all that sort of stuff. And then like also announcing when the next game is, any sort of promotions we have going on, game themes, ticket sales on a game to game basis. There's my phone in during the season, my phone goes absolutely ballistic.
Yeah.
Yeah, when as far as a communications title goes, I communicate with so many different people, ranging to season ticket holders and our wonderful fans that we have here in Northern Arizona, to business owners and sponsors,
Hmm.
that we partner with. I'm kind of a big part in making sure that the team follows through on our sponsorship agreements.
Right.
So like when we play at home, I'm in charge of the game operations script. So when there's football not being played, there's a whole bunch of other stuff that happens on the field,
Yeah.
right? In the arena. So just making sure that we get the sponsors shouted out throughout the game. We have different, contracted promotions and giveaways that we do throughout the game, that engage the fans. I communicate with the head coach of our dance team, making sure that they get organized for like an on-field rehearsal before the games.
Hmm.
Um, I am very heavily in communication with our head coach throughout the season on a day-to-day basis. Like last year specifically, I was probably on the phone with Coach Moss every single day at some point, or down in the locker room, just trying to make sure that we're all on the same page. And so, like, I mean, really, I'm living the dream out here, man. Uh, to summarize it,
Yeah.
I'm very well connected within all things team operations and PA announcer and YouTube broadcasters. We got two wonderful YouTube broadcasters, Ed Cole and James Poovey. They do a great job on the broadcast side. And
Yeah.
yeah, man, a lot of moving parts, but I'm kind of a connect between all things team and football side to all those people and local media. And we've got local papers that we work with, radio stations. I did an interview at a local radio station in the off season, actually. So just trying to keep everything connected, man.
Yeah.
It's a lot, man, but I love what I do. So
Yeah, it seems like it's equal parts fun and equal parts stressful at times where it's
Yeah,
you look at it and you're like, oh, that's so awesome. He's part of a football team. But like some of the things you just mentioned, you're like, all right, as soon as we go to commercial, we got to make sure this guy gets a shout out. The dance team's going there's a lot of moving parts there.
there's a ton of moving parts, and that's just one side of it too, and making sure that, it's part of my job to make sure that I know who's on the team and
Right.
their stories and their backgrounds, so that when I come into contact with like media, or even just our broadcasters that work with other teams, that I can
Right.
say, oh yeah, like this player, I can recognize him without a helmet and go, oh yeah, that's so and so, that's wide
Right.
receiver, yada yada. And kind of off topic, but it just made me think about it. The first time I actually saw your content was you did a breakdown of like plays that you really play design that you liked. And
Yep.
it was like a pitch play to RZ McCorker.
Yep.
And
Yep.
I love how you broke that down, man. And that was the first time I was like, dang, who is this guy? And I was very impressed. So, yeah, man, like I said, it's awesome, man. I love what I do. Hard work, long days, a lot of hours during the season, but things mellow out in the off season and kind of balance out for me. So,
Yeah, the stories aspect you mentioned about the players, that's one of the reasons why I was inspired to start this, is because like I was doing more research. Like I knew about arena football, been a fan for a minute now, but like there just wasn't that platform that like I would listen to hear some of these stories and to hear some of the background on some of these guys and some of the adversity they faced and their journeys. Like there wasn't anything there. So I'm like, you know what? I can't find it. I'll make it.
no,
So
that's so awesome.
it's been fun so far.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, man. And I know these players appreciate that, man, because that's something I take a lot of pride in with my job. This isn't
Yeah.
the NFL. These guys aren't making millions of dollars. So,
Yeah.
the more that I can do to make sure that our players that are, producing and putting, great product on the field, like
Right.
the more that I can go, hey, look at this guy and his best plays and these numbers and these stats. And social media wise, there's a lot that I do. And the players, like any player that's came through Northern Arizona has expressed gratitude directly to me about those things. And
Right.
I've got to build those relationships with the guys on the field too. So I'm really blessed, truly.
I mean, speaking on social media, it's a perfect segue to what I wanted to talk about next, about the role it plays in building a team's brand and being able to connect with fans on that personal level. Quality is something that varies drastically across arena football, across leagues. I mean, even within the IFL to an extent, the quality for one team can be very different than the quality from another. So what are some things that Northern Arizona does from like an internal perspective that kind of separates it from others? Because Northern Arizona is one of the better ones in the IFL.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Yeah, I put a lot of work into the social media side, and that's the part that I enjoy the most, is the content creation, the editing, building something that can resonate with fans, and like I said, give shine to these players. I think the biggest thing is that we do is we are so consistent with, like, I kind of have like a scheduled out content a week by week basis, where it's like
Hmm.
I'm dropping game photos on Thursday, I'm doing highlights on Tuesday. And that's, to me, that's the biggest thing, is I feel like the consistency that we provide out here in terms of like the content that we do produce is definitely like up there with some of the greater teams that do this in the league. And I pay attention to everything, man. That
Right.
that I take that as part of my job too. Is I'm watching what the Rattlers are doing. I'm watching what Quad
Yeah.
City's doing. And I've been able to learn a lot from other people in this league, and also obviously paying attention to what the big leagues are doing, NFL social media,
Right.
pages and admins and stuff. Um, yeah, man, I think that's like the biggest thing. And anytime that the league is also providing like shine, like players of the week and stuff, I've always
Yeah.
prided myself on making sure that Northern Arizona has its own post graphic or video edit for that recognition. to make sure that they kind of get double the shine, right? Like, I don't want to just share what the league is putting out. I want to make sure that
Right.
we also have our own, posts for that, and in-game updates and that sort of thing. Like, I take a lot of videos during the games, especially on the road. Fortunately, I get to travel with the team, which I'm one of the few media people in the league that do that. Most
Yeah,
teams
that's
do
awesome.
not. Yeah, most teams do not travel their media person. So I'm very lucky to have that experience. But yeah, to make a long tangent short, that those are kind of some of the things that I at least personally pride myself on here in Northern Arizona, trying to build the brand. So
Yeah, and there's a lot of armchair quarterbacks, GMs, head coaches out there. I mean, myself included. I'll just be honest. What might surprise fans the most about the behind the scenes of running a team like this? Because like you said, you're wearing a bunch of hats behind the scenes with the Wranglers.
yeah, I honestly, from a perspective of our organization specifically, I can only speak for the organization that I've been a part of, right?
Right.
When it comes down to the behind the scenes stuff, I think it's just the amount of moving parts and ahead planning that we have to do. I mean, we're in the front office right now talking about stuff we're doing, game themes and different things for the whole season. I mean, we're mapping things out already, and it's not even Christmas yet, so the amount of thinking ahead, and we try our best to really take care of the fans and prioritize the fan experience, and ways to make that better. Northern Arizona, we have such a small staff, but we all work really, really hard, and we all have such a passion for this that sometimes I'm amazed at how seamlessly things like come together on a game operations basis, and when everything finally is like time to go,
Yeah.
because yeah, definitely, many people at our front office will wear a lot of hats. It's not just me,
Of
so
course. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of moving parts, and you know you gotta provide that value everywhere you can because
Hmm.
it's a small business at the end of the
Yeah,
day,
yeah,
especially at the level that the any arena team is at, and you got to be able to double down on and wear those multiple hats.
yeah.
So you've been with the team for a few seasons now, including that 2022 season where NAZ won the IFL National Championship. Tell
Yes.
me about that season and what you remember most about that run that the team went on when they won it all.
Truly magical, man. I was an intern, a media intern, the inaugural season, and we weren't very good on the field. We had a lot of things that we needed to figure out, and I remember our owner just deciding to culturally overhaul the football side of things, and
Hmm.
I was like, yeah, of course this makes sense. We won one game. So they
Yeah.
brought in Coach Moss, and I remember meeting him, and I remember him telling me from day one, we're going to win a championship. And that really stuck with me because I was like, okay, we won one game last year. Obviously, Coach Moss, legendary resume.
Yeah.
Um, but I had no clue. I had no idea what was going to happen, and being there every step of the way, and training camp, and we lost the first game of the season, and the fans were kind of panicking a little bit after that first game, and it was just like almost like an instant turnaround, and then the way the guys just came together, and the way that the culture just had continued to build, and it was really a band of brothers in that locker room, and I felt like a part of it from the front office, and that was a new thing for me because that was my first year being like a full-time employee, so I felt very
Right.
involved as well and connected to all the guys, and traveling to all the games, and the highlight of that season, of course, second to actually winning the championship, that Western Conference championship game, man, beating the Rattlers in their building. I mean, I'll
Right.
never forget it, man. I really won't. And like, working for the team, I do my best to remain, calm and professional, but at the end of the day, I put a lot of work into this, and I'm a fan of
Yeah.
this team. I'm a fan of this team too, at the end of the
Yeah.
day.
Yeah.
And so I got a little excited down there, and there might have been a couple of yells, that came my way, and I got the ring and everything. So
Yeah.
very very awesome, man. But yeah, man, that's a memory that's gonna stick with me for the rest of my life, 100%.
Yeah, and you're from Arizona, right?
Yeah, I
So
grew up.
that had to be pretty awesome being a part of something that brought a championship to your state.
Exactly, man. It was amazing. I couldn't believe the way that everything went down. And I never the crazy thing is I never attended an Arizona Rattlers game. Um, I had heard about it and I knew about the AFL and all that, and I had a lot of
Right.
friends that grew up going to games and stuff. I never did, man. But my first arena game, my first IFL game was my first game as an intern for the Wranglers. So
Wow.
yeah,
Okay.
I stepped in and I had to learn a lot about the ins and outs of this and the nuances and different things. And so, but yeah, I couldn't believe, that we made that turnaround from obviously worse to bringing the trophy back to the state, man. And especially since the Rattlers hadn't done that since 2017. And yeah, man,
Yeah.
it was quite an experience. Yeah.
Yeah, and that kind of speaks to how competitive the IFL is because there's a ton of turnover year to year with the majority of teams. So it's not like in the NFL, certain teams are just going to be bad every year. That's just the way it is. But
Hmm.
going worst to first, so to speak, it's not the first. Like it happened with Northern Arizona, happened with Bay Area. Like it can happen very quickly. So some of the teams that were not so great last year can be contenders this upcoming season.
Hmm.
It's one of the things that gets me excited because I'm like, guys, you like telling my friends like you have to watch this. This is so entertaining, and you don't know what's going to happen.
100%. Yeah, that's one of the things that makes the IFL great, man. It can change on a dime, man. It's truly incredible.
Yeah. And one of the things that I always love seeing from different teams is how they interact with their players on social media, little skits, little fun Q&As, all that stuff. From the creator's perspective, when you're collaborating with players or coaches and coming up with these ideas, how do you balance like finding that right idea for social while also kind of ensuring that the players and coaches are authentically being represented as themselves, if that makes sense? Like, how do you find that
Yeah.
balance?
I think the balance kind of comes from just a lot of open communication. Anytime we're doing something that involves a player or coach, there's a lot of back and forth between, like, before that content is created, right?
Right.
It's not like on a whim we're gonna put you on the spot and I'm just gonna start recording guys. There's planning and communication that goes into those things, and I think that's really like the most important part is so that they understand what our vision is for like the
Right.
content, but then also we stay true to who they are, and them being able to show personality and be themselves. So it definitely comes out with a lot of behind the scenes stuff. It can definitely personality can come out in the best way. And a lot of times that content is just very like it flows naturally as long as we're communicating openly about what the vision is. It usually ends out like turning out well. So
You talked about just now, you talked about that first exposure to indoor football being like your first game as an intern. What are some things you know about indoor football, about your role, about your like this part of your professional career? What do you know now that you wish you knew when you started? Like, what's something that you would tell day
mm,
one you about this industry, about what you do?
that's a phenomenal question, man. I think the biggest thing was I was really like I don't want to say intimidated, but I was
Yeah,
like everything felt so big. Like I was like, okay, I come into an organization, I know nobody. I literally
yeah,
like I didn't know a single person. And I was like, I got to start talking to these professional athletes, and they don't even know who I am. And
yeah,
I think the biggest thing was that I would tell myself is just like, you know, these guys are just humans, man. Like I came in with a lot of like, just like bright lights and oh, this is like a professional league. So I
yeah.
think I was a little bit intimidated at first, but I kind of got thrust into the role of being such a big piece of communicating with so many different people that it really went away pretty quickly.
Hmm.
But I was a little bit more like tentative to just like approach players and like introduce myself and be personable with people just because I was a little bit nervous coming into it. This is my
Right.
first experience like working for a sports team, and um I didn't want to let the moment be too big for me because it's like I've dreamed of doing this since I was a kid, and
Yeah.
I would say that's the biggest thing, man. But that's what's really cool about it is I'm so comfortable in my role now. It's like night and day.
Yeah, and I think that that's perfect what you mentioned about like they're human too. Like I think that anybody that works any job can kind of take that away because that was something in my professional career, non off the wall stuff. That's something I've had to deal with too, where I'm like my fingers hovering over the send button on this email because I'm worried how this might come up. I'm like, no, just send the email. Like they're a person too. They were once in your spot too. So I think that's really inspiring to hear from someone who's been in the role for a couple of years now.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Yeah. Yeah. Especially just getting to know people and build those personal relationships, man. Like
Yeah.
there's not a whole lot of like I can't even think of any personally like bad experiences that I've had with players or coaches. Like
Right.
everybody respects everybody. And I
Yeah.
don't know why I would think that would be any different, but I think it was just so new to me that I was unsure.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. So heading into 2025, Northern Arizona has a new coaching staff, some changes coming to the roster. What are you most excited about for this upcoming season with the Wranglers?
The thing that I'm most excited about, man, the coaches that we're bringing in have such impressive resumes. From Ron James to Larry Hendricks to Sia Burley. I mean, we're
Oh yeah.
super excited with the new culture that's going to be coming in, and we have quite a bit of returning players so far. And obviously there are things that are still very much up in the air and early in the process in terms of roster construction, but we're getting some key pieces back. And we're really excited just to kind of turn the page and get started with a whole new regime here. And I don't think that there's going to be a drop off here in Northern Arizona, and that's the big thing that we all are bought into. We think we're going to come in and we're going to compete at a high level from day one.
Yeah. Yeah, and when I saw Ron James came in, I'm like, okay, that's strong. And I think I blogged about it. I think I said, or it might have been on the show. I said, man, if they can get a good offensive mind to balance Ron James, and then y'all brought in Sire Burley, and I was like, okay,
Mhm.
okay, they're not messing around. Sia Burley's a dude. Like if you
Yeah,
want to go watch some Sia Burley highlights, not only as a player back in Orlando and Arizona, but as a coach in Jacksonville, like he has been around the game for a long time, and he is a perfect person for that offensive coordinator role.
no, absolutely, man. We're stoked over here, man. And I've like I said, it's the same with the coaches as the players. I've got to communicate with these guys,
Yeah.
and they're very awesome, man. Just the communication that we already have, and I haven't met them face to face yet, is awesome. So we're all on the same page and ready to roll. So
That's great. Well, I'm excited for it, and I really appreciate you hopping on the show and giving us a little insight into your world. Everyone, go follow the Wranglers. Go follow Tucker on socials. Links are going to be in the description, whether you're watching on YouTube, listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. What's next for the Wranglers, and what can people expect heading into next season?
I think the biggest thing is, man, we're coming to compete and try to go win a championship, man. We all have that common goal. We have the most season tickets sold as of right now that we've had going into a
Wow.
season. Yeah, man. So we're continuing to build and the partnerships and everything that's rolling in, and the fans are really excited. Everybody's bought in. So that's all I can say on that pretty much. We're
Yeah.
we're we're excited, man.
Awesome. Well, I'm excited for the season to get here. I was looking at the calendar. I'm like, man, it's not that far off. Like
No, it's not, man.
it's a lot closer than we may realize.
Mhm.
So I think we're like 90 something days away, but that's gonna fly by, and I'm sure it's
It
gonna be a
flies.
blink.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a blink of an eye for you guys as you start to prepare for some things. But thanks again, Tucker. We'll talk soon, and everyone go follow Tucker. Go follow Northern Arizona on all socials.
Appreciate it, Trey. Thank you.
Big shout out to Tucker for joining the show this week. I've been wanting to get him on for a little while now, and it's really great to hear the stories of not just the guys on the field, but some of the behind the scenes people that are making it work, and hearing what he had to say about he's not just throwing stuff on social media, but he's doing a lot of website stuff. He's doing a lot of this and doing a lot of that. He's wearing a bunch of different hats. So I think it's really inspiring to hear his story and his path. And I'm looking forward to seeing how he continues his career with the Northern Arizona Wranglers. Again, go give him a follow. Go give the Northern Arizona Wranglers a follow on socials as well. And let them know you heard him on Off the Wall. So diving into some news now, not a ton to get into with the holidays happening this week. I wouldn't imagine we get a ton next week either. But something that was announced by Arena Football One, which was pretty cool, is they announced a combine and scouting partnership with the National Scouting Combine, the NSC. So per the AF1 press release, they put partnering with NSC will give our coaches another avenue to identify talented players, said AF1 Director of Player Personnel, Gary Compton. The National Scouting Combine has a proven track record for helping teams and leagues identify players looking for an opportunity. This partnership with the National Scouting Combine will elevate our scouting and talent base and increase the on-field product our fans will enjoy every week. I think this could be the beginning of a really great partnership for the long term of AF1. Short term, it's a little close to the beginning of the season when they have this combine in, I think it's like February 8th, February 9th down in Naples, Florida. That's like a month away from the, like a little more than a month away. So not too far, but it's pretty close. And if you've been following the transactions on AF1 socials, some of the teams have already filled out the majority of their roster. And like as of now, they have some wiggle room to take on some folks that they may see at this combine, they may encounter in the wild out there. But this could be a great play for those teams that are a little bit later in the game with certain things like head coaching and roster development. I think this could be a great opportunity to beef up the roster of a Wilkes-Barre, of a Nashville, of an Arizona, because most of the teams that came from the AFL last year into the AF1, they've re-signed a lot of their same guys, and that you've seen some folks jumping ship from one team to another already. So your teams like your Albany, your Salina, Orlando, they have a majority of their rosters set, and what you see now is probably going to be very similar to what you see on week one when the season kicks off. So I think it's a great long-term play. I'll be interested to see how it affects rosters for 2025. But long-term, this could be a great partnership. And as they continue to build it out, I would not be surprised if you see multiple of these combines in the future. One in Naples, Florida, one in Phoenix, one in Seattle. Like you could see them in multiple spots across the country throughout different times of the off season. So I think it's a great long-term play, but we'll see what ends up happening with it for 2025. So speaking of Wilkes-Barre, they finally have a nickname after taking some consideration from fans on social media, and internally they decided to go with the Wilkes-Barre Scranton Mavericks. So it's a slick Carolina blue in a red colorway with a couple different logos were released. And it's a nice little tip of the cap to the pioneers of the past with their first and secondary logos that they put on socials when they announced the name. The first being the pioneer guy, wearing like the Davy Crockett looking hat, riding a horse. And then the second being the pioneer looking guy with a WBS diagonally across the logo. So it was a little bit more simplified. But to me, the best logo that I've seen so far was what they posted for Christmas earlier this week. It was a Merry Christmas post on their Instagram page, and it was the Carolina blue horse head with like a red mane. It looks pretty nice, and I would not be surprised if that's the primary logo that they go with for helmets, for merchandise, and all sorts of stuff moving forward. So go check it out, WBS Mavericks on Instagram. Let me know which logo you like the best. I think the logo and color scheme turned out pretty well. When I first heard the colors, I was like, oh, I don't know, will it work? Maybe, but I think it looks pretty good. But let me know what you think. And that's the show. Thank you so much for taking the time to check it out this week, whether you're watching on YouTube or listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. We appreciate you for being here. Again, if you're on YouTube, subscribe and like all of that stuff. And if you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, rate the show 5 stars, share the episode with a friend. Let them know what they're missing out on with some arena football and indoor football news here. And if you haven't already, go check out one of the episodes of the Turf Tapes that we did over the past couple of weeks. Last week we were with the World of Football guys, Adam and Randy Snow. The week before we were with Justin Kelm. The very first one we were with Anthony Carter from Arena Insider, watching a couple different games from over the past 20, 25 years of arena football. I'm sure we might dig a little bit further into the vault in the future for future Turf Tape episodes. But go check it out. Let me know what you think. And I'm being serious when I say on socials, let me know what games you want to see. Let me know what teams you want to see. We can probably make it happen. So to reach out, let me know, and we'll see what we can do. And again, if you're not following us on socials, please make sure you do so at Off the Wall FB, F as in foot, B as in ball. Again, Off the Wall FB. We're on Instagram, X/Twitter, and TikTok. So go give us a follow on each of those. There's only 24 hours in a day. The fact that you chose to spend about 37-ish minutes. I know that was real precise this week. Listening, watching the show means a lot. Really appreciate the time here. Hope you have a happy holidays, happy New Year. Next episode you hear will already be the New Year. So I'm going to be the first one to wish you a happy New Year if you're listening to this in 2024. So take care. Have a great rest of your week. We'll see you on socials, and we'll see you next time.